Cipher analysis screen is basically where all of your analysis tools are located. When first visiting this screen, if you've never made a graph, this will be blank. If you have made graphs in the past, then they will all display here. Here you can see I've made 4 individual graphs for my account. However, if I want to see any graphs that may have been shared from other people's accounts, I can click on this icon and that will display all shared graphs. Note on the shared graphs that on the graph toolbar, they actually have a globe icon. This globe icon basically just shows that this graph is actually being shared publicly. With that being said, if I go ahead and just show my 4 graphs, you will also notice that I have 2 of them that I've shared publicly, hence why I have the globe icon in the upper right-hand corner. If I'd like to open a graph and just view it, I can simply click on the graph here, and that will open the graph into its full screen arrangement, along with all the graphing tools as far as exporting data, editing data, etc., which I will cover more later. Additionally, I can also use this upper right-hand corner icon to open the graph. Otherwise, if I choose to edit the graph or want to reconfigure it, I can use the edit icon. That'll open the graph into the configure graph screen. From here, I can make any types of changes I see fit for the data sets that are being displayed. And finally, if I want to delete a graph, I can simply hit the delete icon here, and that will delete the graph altogether. Now, to stress the fact that if I delete a graph, all of this data here is still intact in the database. I'm simply just deleting how I am displaying that information within that graph. From here, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create a new graph. When creating a new graph, you will be taken to the Configure Graph screen, as highlighted in the upper right-hand corner. From here, you can select which sites you would like to work with. If you want to work with more than one, you can simply select multiple graphs or multiple sites. Beneath each site name are their data sets. So here you can see I have Apple Tree loaded, and then when I loaded Buck Road, it brought those data sets in as well. For now, I'm just going to work with Apple Tree to keep it simple. So I'm going to delete that. Now I just have Apple Tree listed over here on the left. To start creating your first graph, simply click on a data set and that will populate the preview graph on the right. On the preview graph, you can see I have my line showing here, and I can zoom in and zoom out with the mouse wheel and move left and move right. Now, I do want to point out that there is some confusion sometimes when people get into the configured graph and they work in this graph, that it sometimes is mistakenly thought of this as being the graph itself, and it's not. It's just the preview is very well written to the point where you can actually see values in the pop-up window. Also, you have your date timestamp at the bottom. But the graph really isn't a graph until you create it, and that's using the lower icon in the lower right. If I want to add more data sets, I can simply drag another data set on top of the existing pane. When I have 2 data sets in the same pane, I want to point out that you have this added icon over here on the left. This is the way you make a scatter plot. By dragging 2 data sets into the same pane, this icon here becomes available. By clicking on this and choosing to move to a scatter plot, it asks you what your point size wants to be and the colors. Closing that now creates a scatter plot based upon those 2 data sets. The first data set opened up will be your x-axis. The second will be your y. So the order in which case you drag or open your panes for your data sets will determine which pane that those data sets will be on. Because I opened level first, level is going across my x-axis, and I did velocity second, therefore velocity is on my y-axis. Bringing that back to a time graph, what I can do now is if I add another data set into there, I want you to notice that my gear went away because now I've added another pane that no longer fits the description of having having a graph with 2 data sets in the same pane. The same thing will happen if I drag it into the same pane, having the 3 there. Because there's 3 and not 2, you'll notice that the gear on the far left is now gone. If I wanted to remove one of these from here, again, let's say I want to remove my flow rate to get me back to my level and velocity, I can simply go up on the legend and click the X here, and that will remove the flow rate from there, and I'll be back to my level and velocity, and you'll see my scatter plot icon is back. If I would like to add more panes, as an example, above this graph, I can simply click on the plus up here. It'll add an empty pane, and from there I can drag, let's say, total flow into that pane. Let's go ahead and click on flow rate, and you'll notice that that will add it to the bottom. Anytime you click, it always adds it to the bottom of the list. If I want something on the top, I have to manually hit the plus button. Now here with my total flow being empty, I want to point out the reason that is total flow typically has data points only measured once every 24 hours. Currently, my graph is only showing 24 hours, so I only have a single point, not enough points to create a line. So let's go ahead and show last 7 days. Under relative, I can choose any number of settings here, and it will all be based upon today's date. So at this moment, anytime I open this graph in the future, it'll always show the last 7 days based upon the day I'm opening the graph. By showing this last 7 days, you can see now I have some data points for my total flow because I've added more than just a single data point. If I'd like to make this a little prettier or make any changes to any of these data sets, those can be done up on the legend. So here under total flow, let's make this a bar graph. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the data sets properties. And by clicking on there, I can change the display name if I choose to. I can change the pane. If I wanted to move it from pane 1 into one of the other panes, I can do that here. I can change its color. Let's go ahead and make it magenta, just to make a very pronounced change. Instead of being a line graph, I'm going to make it a bar graph. I can change the line type if I want it solid or dashed. In this case, I'm changing to bar, so it doesn't matter. If I did change the line, the line type, I can also change the line width as well. If I want to add any symbols to those data points on the line, I can have a symbol appear. I can change the size of that symbol. This also allows me to change my units of measure. Precision is the number of places to the right of the decimal place. Any data handling is because of errors. If there's any errors, like you have an error in your velocity, how do you want that error handled? Use the existing value. Go to a 0 reading. That would just drop any errors all the way to 0. Repeat last reading. If the last reading was 3 feet per second in a velocity reading and it got an error, it would just carry over that last same reading 3 feet per second. So you have a little plateau or line between the 2 points. And interpolate basically means it will look at the readings before and after the error and come up with a value that best represents to slip right in between there. Additionally, I can choose to have my total displayed or my average displayed on the legend once I create the graph, or if I want to reduce that legend size. I can shift time if I want to shift it back a certain amount of minutes. Statistical function means I can do averages, mins, and maxes on my data sets. If I am going to do an average, min, or max, or sum, how do I want those broken down? Days, weeks, months, number of days. Do I want the start or the end of the interval? If I want to add a horizontal line, I want to throw a threshold of 5 inches. I can add a horizontal line and put 5 in here. If I needed a horizontal line for 5 inches and one for 2, I can do a 5 and a 2. So you can add as many horizontal lines as you need. And the y-axis scale, that allows me to, instead of automatically scale the y-axis to its values, I can hard code, unchecking these, I can hard code the value I want those min and maxes to be. I'm going to leave them on automatic, and I am doing a total flow here, so I'm not changing those other things. Hit OK, and now I'll have a bar graph for my total flow. All right, moving down here to the graph views type. Covered relative. Static allows me to go ahead and type a particular date range in. So if the first one will always be the from, and then my 2 will be the second one I select, and so it just filled in the blanks down here. I can change the time when I want the day to start from midnight. It's in military time, so I can change that around. Once I get the set I want, I hit set, and it pops it in there. Another option within static is if I move the graph around with my mouse wheel, and I'm going to pull in some more data. I'm going to move it over a little bit. And now that I have this data in here, and if I wanted this data to be the data I want the graph to open up at every time, I just simply hit this button here, and that will lock in that date. You can see the date changed, and it's locked in. Now, anytime I open this graph, this is the date range it will open up at. All will display all of the data in the database for that site. Now, there is a limitation. It only can show up to 1 year at a time. So if you have more than 1 year, only 1 year of data can be displayed on the graph. And it does take a little longer to load because you got a lot more data coming in for that 1 year. For now, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my relative, And I'm just going to show the last 7 days. All right. Finally, down here at the graphic general details for the graph, it does come up with a name. In the parentheses, it's doing a timestamp, and that way you never have two graphs named the same thing. But I can do here, I'm going to do last 7 days. And if I want to put a subtitle, I can put information in there too if I'd like. And then also, if I want to make that graph public, this allows other people to see it. I can checkbox this, and that will now allow anybody else to see this graph that I've made. If I would like to make this a template, meaning I like this layout, I want to use my other sites, like let's say I want to use Buck Road, and I would like to have it lay out its exact same data with the level and velocity in one pane, flow rate in the second pane, actually the top pane be the total flow, any of that stuff, I can make this a template and just call this is going to be my 7-day template. I could put description in here if I choose to. I'll actually, for now, I'll just copy and paste that in there. And then if I want to make that template public so other people can use it, I can do the same. So I'm going to go ahead and save this or create this graph. It's going to save all these changes that I've made, and it's going to throw me into the graphs analysis screen.